Hi, I just wanted to share one way that I've been sharing or telling my donor conceived boy that of his conception story. So he's only 19 months old, and so the approach has to be tailored to his age and what's appropriate for him. And so one way that I have done this since he's been born, but particularly at the moment because he's in his real book phase, he's loving reading books and doing story time. So one way is, and I'll share, this is the particular book that I share with him at the minute called Our Story, How We Became a Family. And I bought it from the Donor Conception Network, so it's from here in Australia. So that sort of is sort of what we've chosen to purchase and sort of use as one of the tools to telling our child. Doesn't have to be that book, but just any sort of, I guess, book that talks about donor conception is helpful. And so the way that I've done it is just repetitively tell the story with him, not all the time, but regularly enough. We sort of go through the story, and then I actually show him photos of his donor. So we are fortunate enough we went through the World Egg Bank through our fertility clinic, and we were fortunate to get some photos of our donor. So whilst we don't know, her name and how to contact her and all those things, because they're just, they're by Australian law, we can access them when my son is of age, when he's 18. But at the minute, we don't have that, but we do have her photos. So it's quite a beautiful practice, really, to sort of read through this story, refine it for our family, and so I sort of explain how it applies to our family and how it all fits in and it relates to us, and then I show photos of the donor, and I find it every time, no matter how often I've done it, I find it a really emotional point when I'm actually showing him photos of the donor, because I'm wondering what's going through his little mind when he's seeing the pictures, and I can't know, he's only 19 months old, but I find it a beautiful moment, but a really emotional moment, and just such a human moment, I guess. I don't really have the words for what it means for me to show him those photos. So that is one way that we've approached the telling and approached disclosure. And that will refine and change over time as his age changes. So this is sort of probably the most appropriate way that I can do it at the minute, and I can think to do it at the minute within the ways that our family works. And we've also had discussions. So I do have an older son who is 8, and he was conceived with my own eggs. And we've had discussions with him around his brother's conception and how it was a little different to his. And what that means. And he's raised some really thoughtful questions, some uncomfortable feelings that he's had around it. And we've also, and as a result of the fact that we've sort of been telling early and being open about it and being, making it, and it's a part of our family story. He has then, my oldest son has then, on other occasions, brought it up by himself to ask further or probe further or just express his feelings about it, which has been a really healthy sign, I think, of how he's integrating it within his understanding of conception, bearing in mind he's only 8 himself, so he's relatively young. And has limited experience with lots of things in the world. So that's one or two ways we've done it within our family. I think the really important thing is just to remember to keep it going and make it an ongoing dialogue, particularly because I have heard of a story whereby a mother she told her son of his conception when he was around 6 years old, and she didn't continue the discussion, and then it came up again for some medical reasons when he was sort of around a late teen, or and she's like, oh, that's because you're donor conceived, and he didn't remember the conversation at 6. So obviously best intentions, but they didn't continue the discussion. They didn't make it an ongoing dialogue. And there's a fine balance with that. It doesn't have to be an everyday discussion. It doesn't have to be a daily check-in or anything like that. We're not suggesting that. However, it's really important that you find appropriate means to sort of tell and talk and discuss with your donor conceived child, no matter what their age is. So make it age appropriate. but make sure it is ongoing, because their memories can fade as you know, the memories, I guess, of their early childhood, like when they're babies and toddlers and 4 and 5 year olds. Those memories can fade fairly quickly as your child grows older. So I'm not sure at what age your memories, your real formative memories, start to form. I've got a pretty good memory, and I sort of think that mine started around 3, but I don't know what the actual, the research and the evidence says, but I know that it's, it's maybe around 4 or 5 or 6, that your children sort of can retain some of their memories. But that's why it's important, and just a practical reason to keep the dialogue going, because your children can forget. Just a couple of examples, a couple of just reminders to keep it going, make it age appropriate, and also just make it fit in with your lifestyle, make it fit in with your family and what you do as an activity or fun activity, or maybe you sit around and tell stories, you do play games, however you tell stories within your family, whether it's via books, whether it's via plays, whether it's singing, whether it's just discussions around the family table, whether it's walking on, going for walks, family walks, and talking about things. However you do things in your family, just try and integrate it with what suits you. It doesn't have to be a book necessarily, but my boys have both really loved books, so we've found that as a really good way to introduce them to ideas and concepts and things. But yeah, definitely find what works for you, but just make sure that you're doing it on an ongoing basis so your children don't forget as they grow older. I hope you're well. Much love to you as always.